then moved back over to the South. Then I moved like 2 more places before graduating high school, and then moved into America,
Gotcha.
Where most of my family lived.
Okay, was that the ultimately why you made the choice to move to the States? Was because you had so much family over there?
Yeah. I came to the U.S. The weird thing is that I was supposed to be in America since I was like 7.
Gotcha.
You have to apply for a visa.
Okay.
Right. My mother was already in America. My father came and he put in the papers for me to come.
Right.
He put it in since I was like 5 years old. So every year I would be telling everybody, it's my last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to America, and something will happen, and I just didn't go.
Right.
So it just kept happening for years. And all my family pretty much migrated. My father passed away when I was 7 years old. And then my mother kind of took up that mantle for me to constantly, every year, for me to come to the U.S.
Understood.
And, whether it's the immigration papers went to the wrong house that I wasn't living at anymore, or a family member didn't know what it was and threw it out because it wasn't a check, so it didn't matter to them.
Right.
Like, all of these little things happened, and it just prevented me from coming to the U.S. this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And then after my father passed away, my mother's shrine still couldn't get it. And then my high school graduation, I'm 17 years old, and my mother came for my graduation. The whole family came down to support me. And she was like, let me just go into the embassy and see what's the deal here. She went into the embassy, talking to him, and the gentleman was like, well, your name is Tavel Bristol. His name is Tavel Joseph. They never made that connection that she was my mother.
Oh, wow.
Because there's so many scams and stuff going on, that they thought she was just trying to sponsor the scam.
Get one over on, okay.
Right. So I had to go change my name. That's why currently my name is Tavel Bristol Joseph.
Understood.
Because I didn't want to lose my father's name, but I also needed to have my mother's name to get my papers through. So my papers came through as Tavel Bristol.
Got you.
Just to get past immigration. And then I started writing my name as Tavel Bristol Joseph after I came to the U.S.
Yeah. Okay. Dope.
Yeah.
When you get to the U.S., you're already done with school.
Done with high school.
Okay, got you. So what's the first move?
Culinary school.
Culinary school. You already knew that you wanted to cook?
I wasn't sure. Because in high school in Guyana, your last 2 years, you go into the field that you're basically that you want to go into.
Understood.
Because there's not that many colleges. There's 2 colleges in the country.
Yeah.
And you have to have money to go to those colleges or really smart. I was, needless to say, I was none of those. So I knew that. So what the government did was the government set up the system in which they teach you a trade while you're in high school, so you can come out and go right into the work field.
Right.
So you got home economics, you got technical drawing if you want to be a carpenter, you got communications if you want to be a clerk or a file, or, whatever.
Yeah.
And there was another field. So basically, my last 2 years of high school, I was in home economics.
Okay.
Because I used to help my aunt bake
for
Sunday school. And also, that was what I was actually good at because I was helping her in the kitchen from time to time.
So you had some confidence
So
there.
I had some confidence that I can go into this space and be okay.
Right.
And then, so when I came to the U.S., I thought like going to college was what every American do because I see that on TV. So I still wanted to go to college and I wanted to play basketball.
Right.
So I told my mom, like, that's what I want to do. And then crazy story is that she took me to the park in Brooklyn, hot summer day.
Yeah.
And we're like, she's like, yeah, go play, have a good time. Let me see you play. That was the first time my mother's actually watched me play basketball. So I was nervous as shit. Terrible game.
Yeah.
Terrible game. Got blocked so many times.
Yeah.
And so I got back. I sat on the bench and I was like, she's like, how did you go? How'd you do? I said, well, clearly not good.
Yeah.
And she is like, well, do you think you're the best player on this court? I was like, no way.
Yeah.
She was like, well, if you're not the best player on this court, you're not going to be a basketball player. You're going to go to culinary school.
Right.
So she enrolled me into New York Restaurant School the next week. I went to New York Restaurant School, went in, did the interview, and got that going and went in and got a pastry arts degree.
Word. How long did that take?
That took a year and a half.
Year and a half?
Yeah.
Internship
almost
program?
2 years. I did my externship at the River Cafe in Brooklyn.
Gotcha. What made you pick there?
Man, luck of the draw. A friend of mine went in, and my friend of mine was actually working there.
Right.
That was already in my culinary school. So he's like, hey, like, you should go talk to him. And I went in to talk to the chef at the time. Her name is Carrie. So I went in to talk to her, and she was talking to me like I was doing a job interview. But honestly, I went in to ask if I can do an internship there.
Right.
In my externship. And she was talking to me like it's an interview, so I just kept it going. I was like, oh yeah, I like doing this, I like making that, I'm a fast learner, And she's like, okay, cool, when can you start? So I'm like 18, going to 19. I'm like, I can start tomorrow. She's like, great, come tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we started, and I'm like so embarrassed that. And I felt like I cheated her by not telling her that I was actually coming to work for free.
Yeah.
So I waited like a week, and then I just spoke to her. I was like, listen, I'm still in school. I'm looking to do my externship. Would you have me here as an intern?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you're working here already. Just give me the paper, I'll write the hours, and we're good to go.
Oh, dope. Okay.
So I was job right away. Didn't even know how lucky I was, because in that time frame, I'm still not thinking I want to be a chef. Like I just came to America. There's a cultural difference. There's every aspect, the simple basics that every American grew up with. That was normal. Whether it's going to a grocery store and having choices. Eating a kiwi, eating a strawberry. Like, those things I never had until I was at 17, 18 years old.
Right.
So I was so focused on getting to understand people and the culture and different cultures and the way of life and the way people think and the way people communicate. Everything. I was so caught up in that. I wasn't that focused. Also learning my family. I met half of these people that I know now. I met half of, or probably more of them, when I was like 18 years old. So I was so focused on trying to get those aspects of my life secured. I was not thinking about what I want to be in a career. That was the last thing on my mind.
Understood.
I was focusing on getting to know myself as a young man, who I was, what I represented, and how do I fit into this family that I'm now walking into as pretty much an adult, because I had a younger brother and a younger sister that I needed to mentor at that time. Right. And a single mom.
Yeah.
So and it was a crazy time.
Were you received with the kind of open arms? Was
Absolutely.
Like,
that was the first time I ever felt love in my life.
Damn.
It was when I was 17 years old. The rest of the times, it was just like, people say they love you.
Yeah.
Action sometimes speaks louder.
Understood. Okay. So you're at this restaurant. You're finished with school. Do you stay at the restaurant past?
Yeah. I stayed at the restaurant for 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah,
so you worked your way up.
5 years. It was it was a work your way up situation, but it was also a, work your way to, how to say this? New York, everybody knows about. What I learned at that restaurant is there's difference in class. Like, there's prejudice, there's racism, and then there's classism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there, doesn't matter the color of your skin or where you at. If you're not in a certain class, you're not, you don't exist.
Yeah, heard.
So I worked there for the entire time, but there was things that was preventing me from getting to the next level, beyond my control. So I had to make a decision after being there for 5 years, because it was one of those things where I'll give you whatever you want. You want $14 an hour? Great. What schedule do you want? Great. But you're not going nowhere. You're just going to do this forever.
Yeah.
And that's where I was. For 2 years, I did the same exact thing every day.
Gotcha.
And I was just like, I clearly am not going anywhere here.
Yeah.
It's time for me to move.
Understood. Where did you go?
So I took a week and I staged at every top restaurant in New York.
Yeah.
And I made sure I didn't eat lunch or anything. So I ate breakfast before I went in, and I said I'm going to work all the way through until close. I'm not going to ask for a break. I'm not going to sit down for lunch. I'm just going to finish a task and ask what's next the entire time. Because I want to outwork every single person in that restaurant.
Yes.
So for 1 week straight, I quit without even having a job.
Yeah.
I just quit. And I said, I'm going to do this. So I worked. It was David Burke and Donatella. It was Bernadette. I staged at Oreo. And I just was like, everyone offered me a job.
Yeah.
And but they all offered me like, oh, you can be a line cook. We can get you in as the lead line cook or whatever.
Right.
And the last place that I worked at, staged at, the chef was like, hey, like I think I would be doing you this service if I just offer you a line cook job. You should be a manager. But I don't have that. My boy at Bluefin at the W in Times Square, he has an opening. He's looking for a sous chef.
Right.
Also, he's moving on, so you'll eventually be the chef there.
Yeah.
Go talk to him. And went, talked to him, did the interview, went back, did a tasting, and they offered me a job, $50,000 a year. At that time, I'm 23, going to 24 years old. So it was $55,000 a year, and I'm still living at home with moms.
Yeah.
Man, that was a change in my life. It was like, and bonuses. Oh my God, it was the works.
Yeah.
But that was my first pastry management job that I got.
Okay.
And I stayed there for 2 years.
Understood.
Yeah.
And when you're in pastry, so they said you take over as the chef of this place?
Yeah, well, so what happened is he ended up moving on, but they had already... He thought that I was going to be replacing him, but the organization already had someone in mind.
Okay, gotcha.
This guy, Brian, that they already had in mind to bring in.
Okay.
And I was a young chef, and honestly, I was not ready.
Yeah.
It was a massive production, banquets, and Morgan, Stanley across the street. Every day there's events. I wasn't ready at 23 years old to take over a space like that. So they brought in this chef, which was one of my mentors. He eventually became one of my mentors, and he helped me to kind of like just understood like what production meant, how to structure, like the whole nine, food costs, all of those things. Now we had everything was database, computer based, but he really spoke to me in a way and taught me how to conduct myself as a person, how to communicate as a leader. Like there's all of these fundamentals that I was missing that he kind of brought, because I walked into the Bluefin cocky, because I got 5 years of the River Cafe, one of the best restaurants. So I'm like, I got this. Right. And he kind of like just kind of taught me like this is how, as a big man, how do you carry yourself in the kitchen? Don't just turn around, like be aware of people around you, like all of these simple fundamentals that I never thought about. So he was really, and how to be consistent.
Yeah. Be a dancer, have swag.
Absolutely.
All that. Yeah.
So I learned so much from working there.
Very cool. So you make the decision to leave, and what's your next move?
My next move was to Tucson, Arizona.
Okay.
I moved to Tucson. I was in a relationship at the time.
Love.
Yeah,
always
man,
love
sucker for love. Man. I was like, yo, wherever you going, I work with my hands. It don't matter. I got this.
Yeah.
I'm saying New York
I
shit. I could do anything. So I moved and I went to Tucson and I worked for Fox Restaurant Company. At the time they had 4 restaurants. Yeah. Tucson, and they had 1 in Phoenix, 2 in Phoenix, 2 in Tucson, 2 in Phoenix. And I rocked with them for 2 years as the corporate pastry sous, I would say. Right. Because it was just me and this other woman, Spike, and we did all the desserts for 4 concepts. Awesome. And I was basically, her right hand. In the beginning, it had some troubles, but, I did like pastry competition, was like the pastry chef of the year there, I think. It was like 2018 or something like that. And just try to make my name in that community. Freaking